Last week, Wednesday, June 27th, I left Arizona in my Jeep. Coming up here to Wisconsin, want to get away from all the heat, so the first day I just drove all the way from Phoenix to Albuquerque. Stayed at a great campground, Turquoise Trail Campground. If you're ever in the Albuquerque area, look that place up. Very, very nice campground. The second day, I wanted to visit some museums, so I spent a little bit of time at the Atomic Museum in Albuquerque, New Mexico. Kind of World War II stuff is kind of my passion, so there was a lot of really interesting exhibits inside of that museum and outside of that museum. I'll show some pictures of that as well. I also wanted to check out the Los Alamos site, very famous site for the Manhattan Project during World War II. And then that evening, so this is now day 2 of actually being on the road, or yes, day 2, the evening of day 2 on the road. Spent some time at a really cool campground, or rather off-grid. Found an off-grid spot. I'm in between campsites. Down towards the south, there's a campground down there that I investigated. It's nice. It's nice. There's not very busy. There's some facilities there, but it's lower down in the canyon, in the valley, I think, and it's not. I don't know. There's not as many trees down there. It's a little bit more wide open. And then towards the north, actually, there's another campground, but it's a family campground, and you have to have reservations in order to stay there. You got to make reservations in advance, and I didn't do that. I'm trying to do this kind of on the fly a little bit, just kind of see what my options are, and it's okay, but they wouldn't let me stay there because I didn't make arrangements ahead of time. So what I've done here is the scenery between the two campgrounds, which are about 8 to 10 miles apart from one another. The scenery is just magnificent. So I just kind of pulled off the road here. I'm in a state park here. I'm not going to be burning anything. Clearly, I don't have a lot to do in terms of setup for my site here. So I just found a nice little spot over a ridge. Can't see the road from here. You can't see me from the road. It's overlooking this fantastic valley, and it's just gorgeous. So I'm just gonna stay here tonight. Next morning, I woke up. So day 3, I woke up, and I got some coffee brewing right now. Got some water heated up. I'm gonna do my morning wash-up routine. Shower's all done, so to speak. Made some coffee, and I'm just gonna start getting wrapped up here. So what's on the agenda for today? Well, I'm going to head towards north, the Denver area. And my intention that day was just to get some mileage knocked out, driving from Los Alamos all the way up through New Mexico and Colorado. I wanted to get close to the Denver area for the night of day 3 to get some sleep. At which point I made it all the way up to Denver, got on the east side of the Rocky Mountains, and it was just nothing but rainstorms. There was high winds and a lot of rain. It was very, I didn't know what kind of situation I was going to be in with the rooftop tent and try to endure the rain and the wind. They were talking about severe thunderstorms and lightning in the distance. It was not looking good, and the last thing I wanted to do was get stuck in a rooftop tent if there was a threat of a tornado. So I didn't get much sleep that night. The next morning, woke up after a couple hours sleep in the Jeep, just in the Jeep. Made it to Lincoln, Nebraska. Found a really interesting natural history museum in Lincoln. The rest of the day, all I did was kind of hang out and rest, and then try to, get myself together. The next day, so day 5, I took off. Started driving all the way to Wisconsin. There was some family I wanted to see. So day 5, after resting, took off, wanted to get to Wisconsin. So just wanted another day of just knocking out the mileage. And about 100 miles or so from reaching my destination, after traveling nearly a little over 1,800 miles, the Jeep broke down. I've been towed. The Jeep is inoperable. I was driving down the interstate, probably around 75 miles an hour in the right lane, kind of like the way I've been doing it the whole time on the trip here. I'm close to Rockford. I'm about 100 miles or so away from where I wanted to be in Wisconsin. And I got through Davenport, Iowa. I started hearing a weird vibration coming through the dashboard, like the whole interior of the car, and I didn't really think much of it, and then it started getting worse, and it started getting worse. I was about 10-15 minutes past Davenport, and I'm like, okay, this is really getting bad. So I mean, things escalated rather quickly, and I was thinking about, okay, what's the problem here? You know, kind of like on the fly, you know, diagnosis, like in-flight engineer type of concept. Like, what could possibly be making this noise? What could be making this vibration? All of a sudden, like, you know, because it was fine for quite a while before that. I mean, I hadn't experienced anything, so I started thinking about what it could possibly be. Maybe one of the tires is low on air, or maybe there's something going on. I'm thinking something with the tires. So really not really thinking about anything major here. Maybe, so I knew that, you know, 5 to 10 miles up the road, there was probably going to be a town and a gas station. I needed to get gas anyway. I figured that'd be a good opportunity to kind of take a look at it. And then within maybe a couple minutes, like 2 minutes, the vibration got much more intense. It got a lot louder, and I started getting really freaked out, so I slowed down to about 70. And then as I did that, there was a large bang underneath the vehicle, and I was like, oh my God, what could this possibly be? And I pull over as quickly as I possibly can. And initially I didn't want to get out of the vehicle because, you know, noise like that when you're traveling at that speed, typically that's not a good thing. There was a lot of clunking going on, and there was some smoke coming up from the engine. So I'm thinking all sort of catastrophic type of things.
Yeah, a transfer case blew up, and it took my drive shaft with it.
And I pull over, and I get out of the vehicle, and I look under the vehicle, and all I see is fire. And I'm like, what is going on? So fortunately, about 2 weeks ago, I went and bought a fire extinguisher to keep in the vehicle just in case. I knew I was going to be on a long road trip, and I didn't want to put myself in a situation, thank God. So I bought a fire extinguisher, I put it underneath the passenger seat. Immediately I go to the fire extinguisher, rip it out of the box, pull the pins out, all the safety plastic things, you know, to make sure it doesn't accidentally go off. And I get under there and I start spraying and freaking out. Like, this has never happened to me before. You know, this is truly a unique situation. So after all the haze disappears from the fire extinguisher, I take a closer look at what's going on underneath the Jeep and realize that the transfer case is just demolished. Hopefully everything works out the way it should in terms of getting all the parts replaced, and so I can get back on the road. So let's hope that everything goes well. I just want to thank everybody for stopping by the channel. I hope that you like what you see. There's going to be a whole lot more coming as I make my way across the country, as well as some of the big trips that I have coming up. So stay tuned, and if you like what you see, please feel free to subscribe, like the channel, and I'll see you guys around. Thanks.